Trump's immigration policy gets put on ice. The Obama administration plays defense. Plus, the most awkward mother and child reunion ever. All this and more coming up on Insanity Tonight with Big Bad Wolf. The Trump administration hit a brick wall recently when it was revealed that undocumented children were being held in cages along the southern border. The photos were so disturbing that it took more than 4 years to attract the attention of the mainstream media. Because you see, these photos are from 2014. Yes, in their desperate attempts to tarnish President Trump, the resistance media overshot their target and ended up staining Barack Obama instead. The rest of it splattered on George W.'s shoes. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad journalists are finally investigating Barry's scandal-free administration. But where were they for the last 8 years? Because as this picture clearly illustrates, the detaining of children at the border is not new. In fact, in 2014 alone, the U.S. apprehended over 57,000 unaccompanied children. Which begs the question, if they were unaccompanied, doesn't that mean they were already separated from their families? I mean, how are we supposed to keep families together when they keep ditching their 6-year-olds on the side of the desert? But where are the protests for mothers like these when authorities take their children away?
Please step away from my daughter. I don't care what you're asking.
Put your hands behind your back.
No, dude, because you don't have a physical right. You don't have a physical right, bud, and this is me asking.
Put your hands behind your back. Let's go have a seat in the car real quick, okay?
Okay, if I can take my daughter, that is fine. As long as I can have her by my side, I don't care. Please don't do it.
Your grandmother is on the way. She's very concerned. And so your grandmother's on the way up here, okay? Our concern right now is you and your daughter.
Our main concern is get the child in a safe environment. Luckily, we had family show up, and it seemed like they truly cared about the child.
Good thing Grandma only had to drive a few miles to rescue that little girl, instead of having to go on an off-road desert adventure like some sort of female road trip movie starring Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis. California Senator Kamala Harris also went full speed ahead when she went on national television and condemned the administration for its handling of the situation.
Well, they need to end this policy. It is unconscionable, it is immoral, it is wrong, and it is unnecessary. This is not reflective of who we are as a country, and it's got to stop, Ari. It's just got to stop. Full stop. It's got to stop.
Full stop, period. End of sentence. Stop. Full stop. Sorry. Please continue.
This is unnecessary. It is something the administration visited upon themselves, and they need to end it.
Wait, which administration? You may want to pump the brakes a little.
Well, Chris, without a doubt, the images and the reality from 2014, just like 2018, are not pretty. And so we expanded family detention. I freely admit it was controversial. We believed it was necessary at the time. I still believe it is necessary to maintain a certain capability for families. We can't have catch and release.
But, in fairness, I highly doubt that former U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Jay Johnson had any idea about the housing conditions of these facilities. See, this is why so many people no longer trust the media. Their selective outrage is so disingenuous that it's really hard to take them seriously. Like when they post photos of a prison bus for babies, but it's actually used for monthly educational field trips. Or when they print stories implying that unaccompanied children are being abused by Trump officials, when in actuality, the reports were all written between 2009 and 2014. Or when they tweet out murals of Trump the dictator adorning the walls of a detention facility, but purposely exclude all the other murals of past presidents. Even Time magazine couldn't help themselves when they used a photoshopped image of a 2-year-old girl to be the face of the humanitarian crisis. Turns out, not only was the little girl not separated from her mother, but she was actually kidnapped weeks prior when her mother abandoned her husband and 3 other children. This Mother of the Year even paid a coyote $6,000 to smuggle the 2 of them across the border, which is not only illegal and incredibly dangerous, but completely unnecessary.
This is unnecessary.
Because if she was truly seeking asylum, she could have just applied for it at any one of over 24 legal points of entry. Call me old-fashioned, but willfully violating federal immigration laws and crossing the Rio Grande River on a shoddy rubber boat at 10 o'clock at night with a 2-year-old seems ill-advised. I mean, no wonder that little girl is crying. It's way past her bedtime. And let's be honest for a second. Children cry all the time. I mean, you should hear how my pups howl if, God forbid, I use the wrong colored sippy cup. Speaking of crybabies, Rachel Maddow gave the performance of a lifetime as she pretended to fight back tears as she read some breaking news on her primetime newscast.
This is incredible. Trump administration officials have been sending babies and other young children. Oh, hold on. To at least 3. Can we put up the graphic of this? Thank you. Do we have it? No. Lawyers and medical providers. Just, I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Now it is time for The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, where he is live in Brownsville, Texas.
Here's the thing. If you have to telegraph to your audience that you're crying, then chances are you're just acting for the cameras. I don't know, maybe she was really upset. But the whole thing just felt forced. Kind of like this moment captured by CNN of a mother reuniting with her son after being separated for months.
We are anticipating this moment, and if you walk with me, Poppy, I'll tell you a little bit about her case.
You can see the news crew is really rushing to catch up so they don't miss it.
To hold her son in her arms, a 7-year-old little boy. She hadn't seen him for a month, and this is the first time, as we see together, that this 25-year-old woman is able to hold her child. Let's go ahead and listen in, Poppy.
Oh, good, she's wearing a mic so they can capture the audio. Totally not planned in advance. As you can see, her son is super excited to see her. The bond between a mother and son is unbreakable. So much eye contact.
This is an important moment. It's a big deal.
And now the rest of his family is here. Oh, that's wonderful.
So, Poppy, as we wait to see what comes next, let me tell you a little bit about Brenda, the woman in that light-colored T-shirt walking with her son now. They were separated on the 27th of May. She and her son.
Such a sweet moment.
According to what her legal representation has told us. She had, her attorneys believe that they were separated.
Totally normal,
so
totally
Brenda,
normal.
who you see here, could face these criminal charges under President Trump's zero-tolerance policy.
Mm-hmm. And is that, Polo, is that his sister, the little girl with the yellow bow?
That's what we're trying to find out. My understanding is Brenda only has one little boy, and this is him right here.
Okay.
And so
aren't you a reporter? Just go up and ask them. I mean, they're right in front of you. You don't have to yell across the room like Jim Acosta.
Stop calling us the enemy of the people, sir. Will you stop calling the press the enemy of the people, sir? Mr. President, will you stop calling the press the enemy of the people, sir?
CNN is the worst. They're not interested in the truth. Their only interest is pushing an emotionally charged narrative so they can manipulate public opinion. Luckily for us, Border Security Agent Chris Cabrera quickly caught on to their shenanigans and wasn't having any of it.
Well, you look at it this way. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I don't think everybody understands what's actually happening down here. When you see a 12-year-old girl with a Plan B pill or with their parents put her on birth control because they know that's getting violated as part of the journey, that's just a terrible way to live. When you see a 4-year-old girl traveling completely alone with just her parents' phone number written across her shirt, I mean, come on now, something needs to be done. We had a 9-year-old boy last year have a heat stroke and die in front of us with no family around. And that's because we're allowing people to continue to take advantage of this system. And the thing is not every family is getting separated. Some are, some aren't. It depends on the circumstances. For instance, just a couple days ago, we caught a guy coming across with his 5-year-old daughter, and we had to separate that family. He had a criminal conviction for rape here in the United States. So, I mean, we obviously we wouldn't want that guy walking free, but we had to separate that family.
If you're upset that convicted rapists are being separated from their children, then you're doing it wrong. But to be dead serious for a second, these photos are heartbreaking. Images like these should tug at our souls. Trust me, nobody is celebrating babies being ripped away from their mothers. Well, unless you're Michelle Wolf. No relation, by the way. Look, I think we all agree that this issue needs to be resolved once and for all. Both sides of the aisle need to come together and work towards passing some sort of legislation. But instead, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats demanded that Trump go full Hitler and bypass congressional approval altogether, which is totally logical.
When is there a point that Democrats would be willing to work with Republicans and say, okay, yes, let's do some narrow piece of legislation
Let's hope
here?
we never get to that. Let's hope the president does the right thing and solves the problem, which he can do. That's the simple, easiest, and most likely way this will happen.
So naturally, Trump did what all ruthless dictators do. He listened to the demands of the people and asked a federal judge to issue the final ruling. I don't understand why the left insists that the United States is turning into the Third Reich of Germany. I mean, comparing these facilities to Nazi death camps is just insane. If anything, they're more like a subpar yoga retreat with a 1-star Yelp review.
When I went, there were kids doing Tai Chi with an instructor. So there's kind of a semblance of kind of regular life for these kids. Also have kind of recreation rooms. Kids are able to play pool, play video games. There's classrooms. There's counseling facilities or services inside there.
But if you really think that Trump is destroying this country, maybe you should move to Canada. Except you have to actually go this time. Although be forewarned, they separate children from families too. In fact, according to official studies, over half of families detained in Canada were separated from their children at some point during the asylum-seeking process. Now, to be fair, the numbers in Canada pale in comparison to the numbers in the United States. But maybe that's because Canada doesn't share a border with Mexico. It's not racist, it's geography. But since leftists don't believe in borders or laws or anything really, they've taken the next logical step in their regression by calling for the abolishment of ICE.
I think we've come to a moment where we need to call for the abolishment of ICE. I think ICE should be abolished.
You know, I always knew Marcy Darcy from Married with Children was a little crazy, but this is insane. I mean, who in the world thinks this is a winning strategy for Democrats? I have a better idea. It's actually really simple, but I'll let someone else explain it.
Oh, our message absolutely is don't send your children unaccompanied on trains or through a bunch of smugglers. That is our direct message to the families in Central America. Do not send your children to the borders. If they do make it, they'll get sent back. More importantly, they may not make it.
We'll be right back. Well, that's our show. Be sure to check back soon for more lunacy. Let me know what issues you want me to cover next. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe.